Synthwave Redux.
Welcome, Outrunners, city cowboys and girls, and everyone else. You are now on the edge with JohnnyVoltaire. Synthwave Redux. Redux means a reintroduction. Now, why a reintroduction? Well, we've been around for about a decade, give or take a few years. Point is, we're still here. We've done this without a lot of corporate assistance, interference, depending on how you want to see it. So I think that's commendable. This means a lot of the control and the power and the creativity has been in the hands of the creators and the consumers and the critics, even the curators. It's a lot of C's. Point being is there's another one, and we're not amongst the chosen ones to be on the front lines, to be mainstream, which has its pros and its cons, sure. However, despite not being mainstream, I do notice when I check out some movies, TV shows, video games, photography, artwork, flyers for parties, artists from other genres entirely, and I see a little bit of synthwave in them, whether it's our style and aesthetic or, maybe our sound as well. And since I love synthwave, I'm not mad about that. I love seeing it in as many places as I can. However, for the most part, our influence kind of goes unmentioned. Synthwave is still niche, and you kind of have to be in the know to even really be aware of it. When I see it being used in other places and we're unacknowledged, I don't know. Maybe some of you see the same. Because fair enough, we don't have exclusive rights to neon shades, smoky alleyways, and futuristic cars, grid lines and even more grid lines, oversaturated colors, and mirrored motorcycle helmets. I get that. Still, maybe I'm thinking too much. Well, to be honest, video games actually do give us a lot of props, so kudos to them. They're one of us. You see, we live in some interesting times right now where there have been changes in the music industry for the past few years, and these changes have coincided with the growth of synthwave. And that's not a coincidence. Technology has helped a lot of people in certain ways and maybe hampered others. You see how the music industry used to work, and still does to an extent, really, is that there are only so many slots that they can fill with artists, people they're willing to invest and spend time in and promote and really put out there. And then the doorway, the gateway of getting in there has always been very narrow and actually quite undefined. The outside is the independent artist. And actually, independent artists have always existed. They predate the music industry. And in these recent years, really the big gateway for independent artists is finding exposure, getting heard. But these days, that gateway is gone. It's been obliterated. Basically, if you wanted to grab a microphone right now and say, goo goo gaga, and, play a few stabs on a Barbie keyboard and upload it, it might go viral. It might go super viral. In fact, it might go so viral that everyone with a phone and a Wi-Fi connection has heard goo goo gaga. On the other hand, you might be a talented artist. You might make a great composition. You might even make a masterpiece. No one hears it. Double-edged blade of cyberspace. You remember we used to call it cyberspace, right? Well, basically, it's very vast and always expanding. There's so much right now that's available and that's archived. It's still to be archived. And tomorrow there's going to be a lot more, and it's going to keep getting bigger. How do you stand out in the sea of noise? How do you find the good stuff? How do you separate the wheat from the chaff? Interesting question, because this does not just reflect on the artist, also on synthwave, the genre itself. And I can already hear some people saying, we don't need to expand. I love it underground. Keep it that way. Who cares if anyone else knows? And I get that. But understand, you can be underground and be under the thumb of the music industry. It's much better to be independent, in my opinion. Because that way, this genre means more to the people and to the creators. And they're actually ultimately the ones who decide what happens.
And I'm aware there are labels out there for synthwave, and there's nothing wrong with that because without them, we probably wouldn't have heard some of our best groups, and maybe we wouldn't have even heard of synthwave to begin with. They were instrumental in pushing some important guys out there. They are the money behind a lot of talent. Still, by and large, I do figure that we are mostly indie, and even the direction that the artists go who are signed, we're much more independent than someone on a big label. Also, pardon me for forgetting some. It's my memory's not so great, but there's been a lot of instrumental labels that helped us.
So I think it's important that we keep that in mind. Maybe there is only so big we can get. However, I do believe there will be a phase two. I think it will be coming soon, and I want us to have our Empire Strikes Back moment. I want us to come out and have our guns loaded, metaphorically speaking, of course. Because you see, there was a time where a lot of people heard synthwave and they liked it. This was around the time of Drive and their soundtrack, and Kung Fury, their soundtrack, Blood Dragons, and Hotline Miami, which in my opinion is still untouched to this day. But these are all fantastic works and highly influential for synthwave. And people heard these songs, and I didn't hear much criticism. In fact, I don't remember any. People liked it. So what happened? Let me see. In my opinion, a lot of people are used to being spoon-fed music. So if you come across something and that genre is not really popular, you have to go and look for it, which is the beauty of cyberspace. If you want to go somewhere, you can just look it up and you're there. I'm not sure everyone did that. Everyone's so used to their usual channels and the like. And you might have heard the songs and didn't really bother to check if there was more. There's a real genre out there. And honestly, it was still kind of young at that time, but if you looked, you would have found it. A lot of you did. That's why you listen to synthwave. You know how to get to where you want.
While a lot of people are just, happy to get what's given.
And my other theory is maybe people heard the music and they liked it, but they kind of saw it as a one-note parody, kind of a joke or a goof of some sort. I don't know, and I don't blame the works for that.
I just think if you didn't listen close enough or really start to check out the genre, you weren't exposed to so much more and the depth and the scope because there's actually quite a bit. And look, I could be here all day and we could keep listing pictures, but I think you get the point. There's a lot of variety. No, seriously, there is a lot.
Because if you look, you would have found so much more that's available, so many different styles. I say synthwave is kind of a mirror to the future that we expected and the future that we wanted. We're inspired by 80s cheese and nostalgia, sure, but also futurism. This is kind of alternative to what the 80s was. Kind of a sequel, not a reboot, because reboots suck. And the way I see it is we captured a lot of the spirit, but we're also influenced by science fiction and cyberpunk, fantasy and the like. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of variety, but people, they're not very aware of it. And staying underground, maybe it benefits the listener because they feel special about knowing that, but for the artist, it doesn't do much good. And for artists who disappear, you can't really wonder where they went if they were not supported or they don't make enough to keep doing this. It's a sacrifice, it's a job. So wanting more for synthwave, I don't see anything wrong with that, especially if we stay mostly independent. And supporting independent artists, that's something else too. And see, since we don't have this gateway blocking us anymore for getting access to people and making music and being heard, we need to take advantage of all the different channels that we can have.
And one of my favorite shows is Beyond Synth. It's well done, it's funny, and there's interviews. There's a lot of interesting talk about synthwave and just a way to have fun. And anyone can actually just kind of tune in and start to understand more. And I think it's something that should be more kind of like a centerpiece or just spoken about more. And as well as, Night Ride FM, they have some great shows. Synth Redneck has a show. Definitely, there are podcasts out there. There's all different kind of shows, and I don't know them all. So please put them in the comments so we can all know. Because the internet is a powerful channel and medium in itself. If we can start to understand that and use it a lot more and help each other out, I think that's a great thing.
Because I like to look at other electronic music genres and I start to think to myself, I say, what really gave them a buzz or helped them stand out? What gave them legs to get going or even gave them longevity? I think of genres like house, techno, grime, EDM, dubstep, trap, and what have you. And a lot of times people really want to go see the shows. The importance of a live presence might be understated because people love going out in a setting with the music blaring, with like people with similar taste, and it becomes an experience, maybe something you can tell your friends, your family, your spouses, whatever, and you enjoyed it. It almost becomes more real. See, I don't mean to say that Synthwave has no live presence. Of course not. There are shows out there on YouTube and other places, of course. There are fantastic groups who are touring right now, and you need to go see them. But when I look at have you seen the playlist lately? You see the sheer amount of artists and talent that's out there. I think we can be doing more. And I know there are gatherings and conventions and get-togethers from Georgia to Rhode Island and Vancouver, and I'm a little jealous I haven't been able to go. Point being is, we can do more. I live in Miami, and when I go downtown, I get a flyer, maybe for a club or a party. It looks like you're going to go to a synthwave show. Like I said, the flyers really sell that, like you're going to, at least in looks. But you get there, and it's an EDM show. I mean, nothing against EDM. It's actually great party music. But so is synthwave. And I think we can elbow our way in, and we can have some kind of space for ourselves. Because I think the kind of crowd that synthwave draws is a good crowd. You don't have to be one of the scene kids or do drugs or be any kind of particular background or even experience the 80s and 90s. There are a lot of people who didn't, and they love the music, the feel. That's what's important. You can just get in and you can kind of lose yourself. You don't have to be who you are in a 9 to 5. You're just having fun with the music. Isn't that the point of music anyway? Not every act is going to be able to give you the Daft Punk light show or have glow-in-the-dark skeleton men breakdancing on stage. I get that. And it's not going to be very lucrative at first.
You see, I don't mean to say all of this like it's a cure for everyone's ills and it's as easy as snapping your fingers. But human connection is important. And the internet is a start for reaching out. But it doesn't solve everything if you don't put action behind it. I don't mean to make it sound like getting a world tour is easy as just saying book it and you got it. No, of course not. The point is we need to see all the different ways that we can connect with the fans. And I think they need it, and I think the genre needs it as a whole. It's not. It might just be hole-in-the-wall clubs in the beginning, but when these experiences are had and these movements begin and they tell people and word of mouth really spreads, I think synthwave can prosper on more platforms than just the internet. It can exist in more than just in, your headphones or car stereo and the like. And it's always easier to bicker with each other or point fingers. These are just ideas. I just want us to change our thinking a little bit because as a musician myself, I spend so many hours inside tweaking, learning, practicing, rehearsing, recording, mixing, mastering, and then the hard work begins. I just want us to see that there's more out there and we can have fun with this. It's an adventure and we can all be in it together. The fans, the artist. It's an experience, That's what life is. If you really want something to survive, you kind of have to feed it, whether it's your time, money, effort, whatever it is. Because you can't say you're keeping the dream alive if all you do is let it pass you by.
For those who don't know, there is a hashtag on Twitter called #SynthFam. And this is a great collective, a great community of people, from creators and fans and critics and all that, and promoters as well, artists. It's a great community, and I think it's one of the best online. People are supportive of one another and communicate. It's pretty good. You see, I'm an upcoming artist myself, and I don't mean to, tell you I'm right all the time or say I have all the answers or criticize you.
The point of a reintroduction is not to change synthwave or what's inherent in us. It's really to look at where we've been, where we are, and what more there is.
I'm here on my soapbox just to spark a conversation, respond, and maybe we can grow together. I understand synthwave started really as an internet movement, and we have roots there, but you don't just stop at the roots. So I am a dreamer, and I hope you guys are following your dreams as well. But there's nothing wrong with wanting more. You can't always wonder where your favorite group went or why people haven't made any new songs lately when they don't have the money. It's not a hobby. This is a living and something people sacrifice a lot of time into. So we all need to come together and support each other, watch the shows, enjoy the music you like, buy the ones you like, share it with others. It can be fun for everyone. I'm just saying. This is only part 1 of Synthwave Redux because the next part is going to be about the consumers, less about the artists. Because actually, consumers are all of us. Whether you create music or you critique it or you curate it, you consume it one way or another. We all do.
I'm Johnny Voltaire, and this is my YouTube channel. This is only part one, and part two will be coming up, as well as a lot more. So hit subscribe and hit notifications. Thank you very much for listening, and what more can I say? I'm Johnny Voltaire, and you've just been on the edge.
Stay tuned. See you on the other side. Love.